Okay, take two. Tommy G, Middleaged Millennial. I'm on the Gold Coast, and we had a bit of a misstep on the kickoff at 11 because my ever trusty iPhone decided to overheat. But we have a barn burner, as Mr. Brian Grasso would say, episode coming your way today. Looks better, I'm sure it does, Pete. We have Peter Rouse in the house with Tune-Up Tuesdays, as we're calling it. So we've got a fantastic episode coming up. I hope I'm not putting on too much pressure here, Pete. We're going to bring him on. Where is he? Just let him invite himself. There we go. As we play with the tech. It's all about longevity today. And who better to have in that than the Rouse. So this is the first of a few episodes. How's that, Pete? Is that better?
A lot better. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Yeah,
And my phone's not overheating this time. We had a phone overheat on the beach. I've never seen that happen before. It wasn't directly in the sunlight, but anyway, there's tech for you. Pete, just wanted to say, I might be repeating myself to those that may have been jumping on earlier, but look, thanks for letting us come and disrupt your life for a week. Myself and Anne, thank you for the invitation. We were spoilt with not only Pete's graciousness in giving us some accommodation, but feeding us while we're there. Although, Pete, I've got to say, it's the unhealthiest week I've had for a while.
Unhealthiest?
He got me to eat some lamb and some chicken, although clean lamb and
How
chicken.
unhealthy?
Mind you. he's going to argue the point with me, I know. Right? So,
There's no argument. It's good stuff.
yeah. Well, no, the thing is, I let my hair down that week too, Pete. I drank more than I normally would during the week. I had a few
really?
alcohol, a few bevies.
I thought that was normal for you.
God, he's in there. He's in there.
I can show it from either side of the camera there.
Yeah, well, this is it. Now he's trolling from the other side of the camera. But look, mate, in all seriousness, thank you very much to allowing us to come and disrupt your family life. Great to meet the rest of the family, including the 2 dogs, 5 cats. Awesome, lovely wife. God knows how she puts up with you, but pretty good counterbalance, I reckon. And your beautiful little one. And geez, Queenstown is stunning. There is no question. I could easily look at making that a second home. May even do now that you've accidentally, or maybe you didn't think about it beforehand, Pete, but knowing that I, being an Australian, can actually move over there is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I couldn't let that cat out of the bag, didn't I?
yeah, I got you at a weak moment. But look, I mean, there is not only was it great, and so appreciative and thankful for giving us the time, you're a busy guy as far as all the things you do, let alone what you've done, but the experience and the education that you have given yourself must be a number of lifetimes crammed into one, even though we're kind of similar age, although chronologically, cellular age, I know you're about half my age, so you're 26, according to your cellular. And this is what people are super interested in. How can you be near side of 50? I'm looking forward to the invitation, by the way. I'm going to invite myself.
The 50th? I don't do birthdays, though, you know that.
Yeah, what's that? Hang on, I know the date.
I don't do birthdays. We don't do birthdays, Christmas, nothing. Valentine's Day. I get off the hook for everything.
This must be an ageless thing, an ageless attitude thing.
Must be, yeah. Either that or I'm cheap.
Well, look, I'm going to come and annoy you anyway on your birthday, even if it's digitally.
Okay.
So, yeah, but your knowledge is just ridiculously huge and always evidence-backed, and, you know, you pride yourself in being factual-based, which is what I really respect. And our relationship did start, interestingly, with you coming on, and I guess people would, a friendly
Trolling
troll.
you.
Yeah, trolling me, right? But, mate, look, it's been quite a journey over the last year, and to the point where I'm staying over your place for a week. And just hold there, because I've got to open the door for someone. Give me 5 seconds.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Done. So,
just leave me hanging.
Sorry, mate. I left you with the crowd there, I know.
Hi, Angela, by the way. Hi, Matt. Just a couple of people I know on here.
There we go.
Hi, Kristen's here too, yeah.
Yeah. So,
Kiwi's here too. A few Kiwis here. Matthew knows. He's up in Auckland.
Awesome. Mate, longevity. Now, there's a DNA approach, and there's all the supporting factors around eating, moving, sleeping, and connecting in society, and contribution, and spiritualization, and all the rest. Where do we start with this? It's a big topic, Pete, and one that's somewhat controversial. I'm hearing now where we can actually start to reverse age. What's your read on this? How can people look to starting to lead a longer life, and if you will, as much of your protocol you're willing to sort of share as well?
Well,
before we do that, sorry, Pete.
Yeah.
Before we do that, my apologies. Can we just get a bit of your background so people need to know where you're coming from, and you've got a bit of cred behind you, so whatever's relevant, if you can just put that out there and what you've done.
Well, keep it relevant, because there's I've had a few different experiences. So my PhD is in physiology, but I always have a master's degree in genetics and biochemistry. So that's kind of the main field I've worked in, related to what we're talking about today. And then from there, I've kind of done a lot of my own research, looking into different fields. I have the ability to do some of the research hands-on as well, which has given me opportunity to take things to that next step as well. So I'm kind of coming from this from both a physiological aspect as well as looking at that genetic component. So with the genetic component, that's the thing that everybody's kind of looking at these days. But what they're doing is they're missing the bigger picture there. You need your headphones there so you can hear me, huh? Can you hear me?
Yes, correct.
Okay. You plugged it in for a minute.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds good. A lot of people are looking at that whole genetic component, which is a big thing today, especially online. You see everybody's talking about telomere length and stuff like that. But they're missing the bigger picture. There's stuff that you need to look at before you look at the small stuff, is the big picture or the building blocks that you want to build everything on. You need that strong, big foundation. And this is the not so cool stuff that people don't really go into and talk about. Basic things like, looking at strength levels. Strength, you see the research related to strength compared to longevity. Wow. I saw those, what was it? 4 kg
it's
dumbbell.
A little one.
Yeah, that's 4 kg dumbbell.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Yeah, I'm building up to that.
Okay. Strength, though they've done some studies on grip strength, on aging and other related issues, pretty much built around all those biomotor abilities too. So, you get your strength, endurance, then you have your speed, which is going to store a very important component in there. And then you have flexibility, which is another one that's really neglected. And then you have your coordination and balance, which is another thing with aging. You see with the older population, one of the kind of death sentences is if they fall over, break a hip and something like that. That's pretty much a death sentence. So that balance component also needs to be in there. So those things, if we start those early on, before you get to that older generation, 60, 70, 80, then you're going to have a really good foundation. And then on top of that, you want to add in those little bits and pieces, which some of them can make a huge difference, but those come in after the big picture stuff, which is, as I said, biomotor abilities, your strength, your training, exercise component. Other factors there is also to look at is clearing out the environmental toxins around you. So you're kind of screwed if you live in a big city like Los Angeles, like I used to live in, but one of the reasons we kind of moved here was to get away from that. But even in household cleaning products too, we actually make our own household cleaning products. It's amazing what you can do with vinegar and other components you can get to make up your own cleaning products. So we actually make our own cleaning products and stuff like that. The soaps we get in are all natural soaps and unscented, or if they are scented, they're using natural oils. So there's a lot of stuff that we use in the house every day. Well, not me, but people use every day that actually is exposing them to toxic chemicals. Another example is your toothpaste. I mean, how many people use commercial toothpaste? We actually make our own. We make our own. So, looking at the toothpaste, probably 90% of them on the market also contain fluoride, which is a neurotoxin. Also shown to lower IQ, by the way.
Deodorants.
Well, that's aluminium in that. So you got aluminium often in the deodorants and so forth. Plus, you got additional chemicals with the scents. Anything with perfumes and scents is a toxic chemical base. So if you go through your bathroom, yeah, most
No more Brute 33?
That's pretty bad, yeah.
Okay. Old Spice. Remember that one, Pete?
Probably up there too. Yeah, so I don't use any of those. So, but you know, I smell so sweet anyway. My sweat smells sweet, so I don't have to worry about it.
Close enough to you, Pete. I know we were living in the same house, but I didn't get that close.
Okay, you say so.
Maybe I'll ask Alicia about that. I don't know.
Okay, well, ask her. So, I mean, these environmental toxins are going to be causing accelerated aging as well as, you know, other health issues and disease-related issues. So, immune suppression, all these things, cancer causing too. Remember, cancer is not really genetic. I mean, they kind of tell you it's always genetic.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, cancer is not genetic. I mean, there's a component there, but it's a very small component. It's more environmental. The EPA put out a paper in 2010, which was actually removed. I think it was 2010, 2009, maybe 2010. That number one cause of cancer was environmental toxins.
Jeez.
And that paper strangely disappeared. I actually do have a copy of it, luckily, but they actually removed it. But the point there is that even the EPA in the US is admitting that, you know, the environmental toxins are a huge issue, and that's one of the things that people don't look at in the environment around them, not just what big industry is producing, but what they have in their own home.
That's ridiculous. So, and especially if you're living in a city, like you said, you're living in LA for a while, and environmentally, I mean, you have also the EMF. Wireless routers, 5G. We're going to 5G. You and I were talking about that the other day, right? Yeah. So you got the wires in, especially in old homes. What, mold as well?
We're talking about that. Yeah, mold. I mean, mold is up there with the toxicity, and mold is a big one. There is also a genetic component with the mold, because there is a component where your sensitivity to mold can determine on your genetic makeup. So some people are much more sensitive than others, but I'm dealing with someone right now with the mold issue, and that's really severe. And I mean, the issue with mold is probably one of the more underrated toxicity components.
Jeez. Right. It's one of those silent killers, right? Like EMF.
Yeah.
You don't even know about it. People just don't know how, you know, you mold in a petri dish when you're doing your biology subject at school, but people don't realize actually how much that could be in homes. I used to live in Adelaide when I grew up, and you'd get wet, damp sort of times of the year in winter, and you had these old, beautiful homes, but some of these homes smell musky even, but there's a lot of mold you just don't know that's around you that can be having a chronic effect on you. When you're living in your home, you're living there for a few years, potentially. So, yeah,
I mean, it could be very unseen behind the walls, up in the ceiling, stuff you don't even realize is there.
It's crazy. So Pete, we've got so much that, you know, when we talk about eating, or let's put it under the bigger umbrella of consumption, right? To break this one down right now. And you're talking, before we even get to the sexy side of living a longer life, which would be about telomeres and things like that, just what you can do today and what we're being hit with today. And eating is part of consumption, but we're consuming all these things we don't even know about, that are these dark, sinister things like mold, EMF, and so on. And what's our drinking water? We're part of the system in the cities of drinking water from a tap, which we trust the government regulator has got under control. Provided that their interests are very much coherent with the public's. What is it we can do if we flip this around? We've got so much coming at us. What can we start to do? What's a couple of things we can start to do around, let's say, the consumption piece, and then let's touch back on the move piece and first steps people can take there?
Well, with the consumption piece, the first thing people can do is, and this is kind of somewhat controversial for some people, but for me, it's removing grains or anything that's kind of pro-inflammatory. Big one. Inflammation is a big factor. So one of the factors towards inflammation is, of course, going to be pro-inflammatory foods. So foods that may not also agree with you, foods that may have not necessarily allergies to, but intolerances to. So the food intolerances can cause an inflammation response in the body. It's like cytokines and everything else, so that can cause a cascade of issues. And then you have, on top of that, you have the nightshade vegetables, which
are?
well, nightshade like eggplant, tomato, potatoes.
Right. Potatoes, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember
Is
Tomatoes,
Anne there?
that.
Anne's not.
And somewhere around.
Yeah, I thought she'd be
She's
trolling
not.
me.
She's quiet. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll have to get her firing up. Yeah.
She's afraid what I'm going to say back.
I'm waiting for the potato thing. I'm sure she's going to come back on that one.
Yeah. So
she hit Aki with it yesterday. All right, go on. Sorry, mate.
Okay. So the nightshade vegetables can be a factor. Some people are okay with them. Some people are not. One of the ways you can kind of test the stuff out is within the elimination diet. So the elimination diet allows you to kind of eliminate all these potential foods and then introduce one at a time to see your body's reaction to them. I don't do well on eggplant's terrible for me. Tomatoes are kind of mediocre. Potatoes are mediocre. I just avoid them anyway.
Angela is just great because I was going to ask
bell peppers.
nightshade.
There's a whole list. There's actually nightshades actually go back to ancient times where they used to use them for poisons and stuff like that.
Whoa.
But they're not necessarily these nightshades, but there are nightshades that actually used in poisons. So there's a whole branch of family that can be fairly pro-inflammatory and other issues. Well, can be gastro problems as well.
Why do they call them nightshades?
Good question. It's the label that came from them. I think might have been from the older times when
the dark side.
The dark side. Yeah.
Yeah.
Come over.
Okay. The dark side. All right. So the nightshades, pro-inflammatory. Are there any good stuff in the nightshades, or is it specific to individuals, or what?
Well, there's nutrients in there, but I mean, are you going to get through to the nutrients if you're having problems with the gastrointestinal issues with the nightshade? So, I mean, if you're blocking it through there, then she can finally hear you guys, huh?
Yeah, had to find some headphones. That was directed at me because I'm using Anne's right now.
I see. So make sure she cleans them after.
I was going to say, she cleaned them before and after.
Okay. Nightshades is going to be one that I kind of wipe out temporarily and then I reintroduce and see how people kind of feel with those back in there. Grains are generally, I find I get someone off grains for even 2 weeks, but up to a month. You introduce grains again, they can really feel the difference.
Wow. So what sort of things are they getting? Because grains is a big one right now. Well, it has been for a while, right? You're seeing gluten-free and you're also seeing no grains now.
Well, the gluten thing I'm not really on board with 100%, but the grain thing I'm 100% on board with. I think the gluten thing can be so the gluten protein has been changed over the decades from selective breeding stuff, but also the fact that we've had introduction of Monsanto's chemicals in there with Roundup and glyphosate. So it could be a glyphosate component as part of that reaction to the gluten. So I don't kind of put it too much into just gluten alone. I think it's several components coming together there.
Right. And what about the GMO aspect of grains? That's hitting us too, you think?
Yeah, but I mean, I think GMO is probably one of the worst things on the planet at the moment.
Whoa. Why is that?
I mean, so the GMO is something we're not used to eating. I mean, we've had foods in our diet that slowly adapted over time, millennia. So you're introducing something foreign DNA into the body, and sequencing is an unknown effect on our bodies, for one thing. And then also, once you introduce it into the environment, these crops are designed to take over where other crops would grow. The way they grow, they spray them too. So they produce their own pesticides, some of them. So you've got to be really careful about introducing these crops because you're going to wipe out all potential other natural crops.
Jeez, and what about, I mean, it's funny,
Salmon, GMO salmon.
GMO salmon?
Yeah.
So we're doing it to animals too?
Yeah. GMO salmon's already out there.
Holy crap. Well, that's interesting. So, a couple of questions there then. So with GMO food, it's funny, you go into, I don't know, one of our commercial grocery stores, wherever you are, and you see this beautiful Coles, Woolworths. I don't know, what do you got over there in New Zealand?
Countdown.
But Countdown, there we go. Oh yeah, it looks like Woolworths. And the tomatoes look beautiful and red and perfect, and the apples and so on. You go, oh my God, look at that, it's so fresh. For the average punter, they're going, oh wow, look at this food, it looks so fresh and beautiful. And it almost you eat it, and it kind of stays like that in your stomach. It doesn't break down. It's been so hardened to bacteria, which is the idea to get the yields out of the crops, but then you can't bloody well digest the thing. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, some of the fruit, they put a waxy layer over top of them, so you've got to soak them to get that off. That's if you're buying commercial stuff on the market, as you get from the farmer's market, local organic stuff. So, try to avoid that stuff as much as possible. Support your farmer's market, because that's going to only, increase the local farming community as well, which is going to be beneficial. And talks about the farm salmon, which is another issue. Farm salmon, they're feeding them unnatural feed. You aren't getting people want salmon because it's omega-3. You aren't getting omega-3 out of it if you're getting farm salmon, because of the fact that they feed them grains and other pellets. The pellets they feed them are full of antibiotics and other drugs. And then also they actually farm the GMO salmon as well. So I avoid that. So basically, most countries I go to, I avoid fish altogether because of the environment it's caught in. I do eat fish. I eat salmon here, as you know, but I get it from a wild caught. It's a wild caught source, so it's a very good quality source down here in the bottom of South Island. So we've got pretty clean environment where they are coming from.
Oh, and it was beautiful. I mean, it was. I remember you cooking that for breakfast, and apart from it being beautifully cooked, it did taste great. Not that maybe I could taste the difference between a GMO salmon and a non-GMO salmon.
You can.
You can? Wow. Okay. I'm re-educating my palate back on fish, as you know, this quarter.
That's what I am.
Thanks for the finger. It's all right. Yeah.
That's what I am.
What about farm salmon? Yeah, okay, we're talking about that. So, before we were, scratching our faces, with fish, what is it mainly so you're talking about GMO. So how is GMO fish actually negatively affecting us? And then there's mercury, there's heavy metal stuff and whatever else?
Again, GMO component is, how they insert the genes. We don't actually, you're up to man. You don't know how that's actually affecting our genetic makeup, because remember, you're taking in that genetic material which your body responds to. So there's that component there. Plus, they really the feed part is the biggest problem there, because they do pump them full of drugs. The water quality they put them in is just these massive pools, which basically they're pretty disgusting.
Right.
And as far as the essential fatty acids that you're getting from them, the ratio there is way off. It's almost criminal that people think they're getting omega-3 when it's actually not. And the worst part is sometimes they're getting omega-3 oil from that.
What's the difference?
They're getting oils. They're extracting oil from these farmed fish, thinking you're going to get omega-3 from it, but what's the oil quality? This is for the cheap quality brands, not the the good quality brands, but it's bulk buy quality brands. I won't say any names, but some of these cheaper brands on the market you can buy in bulk off the shelf, and and if you're buying off the shelf too, it needs to be refrigerated. So when you're buying your omega-3, your fish oil capsules, make sure you buy it refrigerated too.
Right. Okay. Go on. With fish and omega-3, the ratio of omega-3 to omega-6, a lot of people get confused about this. It should be what ratio to be ideal?
So omega-6 to omega-3, 2 to 1, 3 to 1 kind of ratio is pretty ideal.
Okay, so 6 to 3, 2 to 1, 3 to 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
Something in that range, yeah.
Okay, and make sure it's wild-caught salmon or wild-caught oily fish.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And then when you're getting supplements, are you able to divulge any sort of supplement, either brands or whatever that
Well,
you use that you trust or whatever?
I mean, I trust Metagenics for their omega supplements. So
Right.
Metagenics is a good one. There's a few others out
That's
there.
an Australian brand. That's an Australian brand, Pete.
No.
It's not?
No. They're all Australian, but it's not an Australian brand, no.
Oh, where does it come from?
Where do you think?
It's not Kiwi. It's not.
No.
It can't be.
US.
US? Yeah, US. Okay. All right. Well, named like Metagenics. I'm not surprised. Okay. So we've talked a bit about food. I mean, God, we can go so deep into so many areas, and we're obviously, watching the clock here. Give us a one top around consuming. What big tip could you give to people that they could take away today around consumption that's going to help them lead a longer and healthier life?
Okay. Before we go there, I want to answer a question here from Claire. Well, a comment that she's talking about the hemp omega-3, omega-6, omega-9. What you got to remember though, when you're talking about plant-based omega-3, it's short chain. So short chain omega-3, we're talking about animal-based omega-3 is long chain. The body's ability to convert that to long chain is probably only about 10%. So you're going to have to eat a hell of a lot of your short chain omega-3 or plant-based omega-3 to convert it to. And that's if you can convert it. Remember, some people may be even lower, maybe 2% conversion rate. So you have to be careful about your plant intake of your omega-3 because it's only coming in the short chain.
Right. Yeah, I remember you and I talking about this when we were at your place, because I was very plant-based for 2 years, and I did it for a reason because I was using it as nutritional medicine for a period. Although you probably argue the fact that I did that for whatever purpose, right? But that was my intent at least, right? As I was learning, hitting the guardrails here and there, and you being one of those guardrails, fortunately. The plant-based omega is different than the animal protein-based one.
Well,
for the reasons you just mentioned.
Hemp is the best, but the length of the chain, so it's the carbon chain length of the omega-3. So the short chain compared to long chain, basically. So you're going to have to eat 10 times more plus, depending on your ability. So you want to make sure that you do compensate that too, because often those plant-based omega-3 comes with high omega-6 levels too, and the omega-6 level ratio, then you can throw out your ratio without realizing it.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's fantastic information for those that don't know. Sorry, Pete, go on.
And Angela was saying too about the hemp being GMO, not GMO, but I don't believe there's any commercial GMO hemp yet. Not saying they're not working on it, but there's no commercial product hemp. And the thing is, I mean, great thing, we talked about this the other week, was about hemp. I think we did a live feed on the other channel that we talked about, now hemp is legal to grow in the US. And hemp can be used as a food product, but also there's a lot of other variations. You can use it for concrete, you can use it for paper materials, you can use it for plastics, or kind of plastic type materials. You can use it in drywall. It's actually fire resistant too. So the hemp thing is a very great thing, I think, coming along. Hopefully the world will kind of open up to that a bit more.
Right. I mean, it's not like it was an overnight discovery, right? I mean, we wonder why it took so long.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was kind of banned because of industry, like special interest.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay,
there
we go. The usual thing.
Hemp is not cannabis, so people need to remember that. It doesn't have the psychochemical changing properties that like THC. It primarily is CBD. So.
Shit! So I should stop smoking. I should stop smoking my jeans?
Yeah, probably not a good idea. It's not such, yeah. So the psychoactive component, so hemp is non-psychoactive primarily. Right.
Okay. And look, just to close out, because we've got that other question still on the queue that I gave you as well, but when we're also talking, just to finish off the omega thing too, and supplements in general, a very important aspect we discussed last week is, you call it, is it assimilation or absorption?
Absorption, assimilation,
all these vitamins. People don't understand this, that you can have all these great brands that look great on Amazon and it's got a whole lot of reviews and whatever, but it comes down to one thing. Well, one important factor, one of the many probably, that is like how your body absorbs it.
Yeah, assimilation. And we talked about that with vitamin C, didn't we, I believe? And we're talking about the assimilation and absorption of vitamin C, which is, again, is very low, around that 10% mark. If you take it orally, where, of course I'm killing the and, what are you talking about? So vitamin C, we use a liposomal or IV. I mean, I just look at the difference between IV and liposomal is very minimal difference in absorption rating. So you've got over 90% plus absorption from liposomal delivery from vitamin C. So there's certain nutrients that have a kind of a poor assimilation. So those ones are better looking at different delivery methods than general, the hard capsule or tablet that you take, because they may not be absorbing.
Okay, and the liposomal method is still in a capsule or what?
Well, it's encapsulated. It's a liquid form, and it's encapsulated in the liposome. So, if you look up the liposomes later on, I mean, we can go down a whole avenue with that one. But so it's encapsulated around a liposome, and that aids with delivery by directly delivering that into the cell.
Right. Okay, great. Just so people can look for that method of encapsulation. What is that?
I'm just saying hi to Gino. You met Gino here, remember Gino?
Oh, Gino! Hey, how's it going, buddy? I did. Lovely guy. Next time, you and I need to have a couple of vinos together, Gino. A vino with Gino. There we go. Okay, let's bring it back up. I had that one question around consumption, and I want to jump into one of the other areas that because you've basically setting this foundation right now. And by the way, how are you for time, Pete? Because I could go over our 1 hour, and we had a bit of a bumpy start. You're good?
I'm good to,
okay, great.
Yeah, good for late.
Okay, all right. So for food, what's the first step that people can take that's simple that they can start to implement today around consumption? We'll include water in that, by the way, because you consume water, that they can take that's going to start to give them some low-hanging fruit, right?
Yeah.
Some low-hanging fruit for people.
Okay, so I think one of the things is to use real food. I mean, all you guys have talked about this before, is buying food that actually doesn't have a label, looking for that first. So when you go to a supermarket, which I try to avoid, but if you go to the supermarket in general, you go around the outside of the market and avoid most of the stuff in the middle, except for the coffee aisle.
Right. Yeah. Right. Coffee oil?
Coffee aisle. You got to get in and get that coffee. But other than that, you kind of go around the outside. The way the supermarket's designed in general, you'll see, you have your fruit and veggies, you have your meat and other, products like that, and then you have your dairy including eggs. So that's where I kind of get dairy in there, which eggs aren't dairy, but they include that. So if you keep around the outside using whole foods as your basis of your diet, that's a good start. Getting rid of that processed packed stuff, then you're going to be eliminating a lot of those chemicals we were talking about at the beginning. And it's a good start. I mean, then you can start narrow things down, like, trying to get more natural food coming in there where you're eliminating the chemicals used on those plants. So organic, which depends on which country, and that means one thing or another because organic pesticides, So or we talked about biodynamic, which is even, that's the real thing. Now, if you can get biodynamic, it's kind of hard to get and it's very expensive. I used to support it when I can find it, but it's not easy. So if you get into the organic or natural foods from a farmer's market, just talk to the farmer, see what they use on their products. Then you have a better idea, and try to get as clean as vegetables as you can. Same thing with the meat. Find out where your meat's coming from.
Right.
I mean, industrial meat is a big issue, and I won't touch that stuff. So industrial farming, I try to. I mean, if I had my choice, I'd ban industrial farming here in New Zealand. I'm all for sustainable farming, which I'm trying to create a little bit of a sustainable farming system here myself, and then also with another farm I'm trying to build up. So trying to get that natural intake coming in rather than buying from the commercial supermarket might be the next step. Right.
Let's head back to the farm. Okay. And biodynamic. I managed to find a organic biodynamic, and preservative-free red wine, which is pretty cool. I've also found a rosé, a French rosé, slightly effervescent, organic, low alcohol, like they used to do it. not the high alcohol addictive stuff that they generate today, less than 10%. So anyway.
Hey, my grapes are organic.
Go on.
My grapes are organic out there.
We didn't get to taste your wine, dude.
No, you don't want
that?
Trust me. You don't want to touch that.
I just want to tick the box. It could be the end of my bucket list, but okay. All right, mate. So water. Give us a quick one on water. I'm including that in consumption.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's a really important one.
So tell us about water then as a low-hanging fruit.
Well, this is what I like to do to purify my water. I use a distiller. You saw our distiller here. We've got two of them actually, but we're backup ones and stuff like that. So distiller, I make all our water. So that purifies the water to be 100%. And then afterwards, I'll either remineralize it or I add a little bit of that Himalayan salt to the water, which allows us to, get the natural mineral back into the water that would normally be occurring. So I like to get my water as clean as possible. Even down here, I mean, our tap water is clean, but it can't be clean enough these days.
Right. But what about, then you're taking out all the good minerals too, are you not?
But then you add something like the Himalayan sea salt, and also I have droppers for the mineral remineralization. It only takes a couple of drops in that big container of water to remineralize it. You only talk trace. Okay. You only and water is only looking at trace levels of minerals. That's all you need.
So that's all you need.
Yeah.
Okay. So and any particular brand of those drops that you do use to remineralize?
The one we're using right now is actually.
God, I can't remember. I used it.
It's special. They actually specialize in minerals. I can post it up afterwards.
Great, mate. That'd be awesome, just to help people out with an idea. Okay, so that's consumption. So we've gone organic, clean, non-farmed, wild-caught fish, and water. You distill it. What about reverse osmosis water, by the way?
That's probably next best. That's not as good as the distillation, but it's next best. Pretty good.
Okay, great.
Okay, that is
clean water.
Both processes use a lot of water up. So the reverse osmosis is not as efficient.
Is environmentally friendly. Okay. Yeah. And 2 liters, 3 liters, 2.5, 1.8. How much water?
8 glasses a day. No, just kidding.
8 glasses a day.
You're kidding.
Right. That's the usual thing. Yeah, with the full glass and a half of full dairy milk. I think it was it Professor Julius Sumner Miller with dairy milk chocolate Cadbury's. Do you remember that, Ed? Maybe not. Okay.
Before my time.
I was waiting for that. Okay, good.
But water, 2 to 3 liters is kind of like your minimum, but listen to your body. Okay. It depends on what you're taking vegetable-wise too, or fruit if you're eating fruit. So you're getting some water from your diet, hydration levels, depending on your activity levels, depending on the environment you're in. Remember, you actually get more dehydrated in that really cold environment as well. So people don't remember to drink enough water in temperatures like you get in Canada in the winter and other places that are get down to 0 degrees Celsius or less. That can be really a factor that can dehydrate you as well.
Wow, isn't that amazing? And you wouldn't think, because you're not perspiring. When I was living in Singapore for 13 years, and you had an excuse to drink, right? Yes.
You kind of walk around with a wetback on your back.
You do, although, I used to hate humidity, and God, I got used to it living there for 13 years, or based out there anyway. Now people say, oh my God, it's so hot and humid here in the subtropics of the Gold Coast. And I go, what are you talking about? Mm-hmm. But anyway, that's how I epigenetically changed, I guess, over that period. We'll talk about that later. So we've got the water, we've got the organic fruit, food, keeping it all clean, check labels, basically don't eat at supermarkets because of a lot of the processed stuff that's there. Now, why don't we move to moving? Moving, Pete. What's your regime? And yours is pretty high end, dude. But low-hanging fruit for the average punter to get some good returns in the beginning, just making some simple steps. Let's move.
Well, Matt just joined, so this kind of goes in with what Matt's doing anyway. So it's perfect timing.
Sweet.
Yeah. So what I would say would be to look at joint health first. That's number one. Number one rule is do no harm. Okay, so injury prevention should be number one. So from here we look at joint health, because as you're aging, if you look at anti-aging, one of the things you see all the time as you get older, you won't get at me or Anne. One of the things you do as you get older is
if you need it, you can take it.
Okay, I need it. As you get older, the joint problems become a big issue, right?
Right.
So I'm going to get some water here because I need some of my purified water with a little bit of Himalayan salt.
Oh, there we go.
Sorry, guys.
There's an ad for the protocol.
Yeah. So the joint health is something that's really, really important, and something that people make a mistake of is they jump into their training. Say, for example, their strength training, they go into the gym, and they jump into this big compound movement without looking at the integrity of the joints they're loading. And you might need to start, and Matt can probably address this from what he's doing with his programming, is addressing that joint stability first, and increasing the lifespan of your joints is probably number one. And also with having a surgery too, that was a big factor for her too with the knee. Anytime you have a kind of joint injury, that is with you for the rest of your life. So trying to minimize those injuries to the joints is a big factor because they come in back and haunt you as you get older. 30, 40 years down the line, that little mishap you had in the gym with your shoulder will feel a lot worse, and you may not even move your arm.
Right.
So the joint health is something I work around doing specific exercises around creating the joint stability and strength around that joint before I start doing the big heavy loading compound movements.
Right. Okay. So joints, interesting. And you did some work on my joints. I remember too. That was pretty amazing. And then I find out I've got a leg that's 4 millimeters longer than the other.
How's the shoe lift working?
It's working sweet. Been running in it. I don't even feel the difference now at all. Right. Good. It's used to it. Muscle memory's in there, I guess. So I'm using
the SI joint.
My SI joint.
Yeah, get Anne to look at your SI joint and see if it's level still.
Oh. Yes. I'm going to pass that on. In fact, she's probably got that by listening in right here. Anne, did you get that? It's my resident osteo. So what, apart from joints, if someone was, from an exercise point of view, what would be number one exercise that's easy for people to kick off with that's going to give them some good returns?
Flexibility.
Flexibility. Wow. So not walking? I mean, people would say walking or running or,
Walking's locomotion. I think walking's great. I mean, especially loaded. Right. I think loaded walking's better.
Right.
But before looking at locomotion, flexibility is so neglected. It's one of those biomobilities that is so neglected. So I think flexibility training. Look what we did on your shoulders the other day on the video.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And that was just a kind of a quick run through.
Yeah, well, and it wasn't so quick, right? But to me it wasn't. But with the work and just the measuring of certain things and the science you went into was incredible. And some of the things you started to point out as I bent over, and we saw one side of my back was higher than the other. Right?
Doing that stretch. Are you doing that stretch still?
Yeah. Shit, I forgot. I got to start.
Okay.
I got. Right.
Well, I've got to do some stuff for you too, so I'll send those in the reminders for you.
Beautiful. Thanks, mate. That'd be awesome. That'd be awesome. So walking's not, walking's good, but flexibility. So are we talking yoga?
No, I'm talking specific.
What are we talking?
I'm talking specific to the individual. And I usually start looking at, so actually before we start that, Matt asked difference between flexibility and mobility.
Oh, yeah, good call.
Okay, so simply mobility, and this is really simplified, mobility is stability plus flexibility.
Right.
So mobility is that flexibility coupled with stability of the joint. So that's where you get your mobility from. Flexibility is the type of training I'm referring to. Not the actual attribute of flexibility, because flexibility by itself is not something you want to achieve without that stability component, which creates that mobility.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So the mobility is like the range of motion type of thing.
With stability. No. So you have stability of the joint or the integrity of the joint throughout the full range of motion. Flexibility just looks at the range of motion. But when we're talking about flexibility training, yes, we're looking at range of motion, but then we couple that with everything else, which creates the stability around that, which gives you the overall mobility.
Right.
Okay, well, it's confusing.
Yeah. So where should people go if they want to fix this? What should they do?
Well, I mean, Matt does all the programming, so I think he does those the online programming, right, Matt? So I think getting a really good foundational program set up is probably the best way, where you addressing all these factors first before you start getting into the serious heavy training or anything like that. You want to create that really strong foundation, addressing any limitations which may be coming from flexibility, stability, which are coupled into mobility. Balance and coordination factors may come into it. One of the things with coordination and stability is I deal with a lot of motor morons sometimes, which I refer to them, which is not well, probably mean sounding, but motor moron is basically someone who's had an undeveloped nervous system development, especially when there is a baby going through that developmental stage of crawling, walking. They may have, you see mothers well, not necessarily mothers, parents use the walkers. You've seen those walkers, they put babies in to walk. And
yeah, I used to have one of those.
Well, that explains a lot then, because it bypasses, basically bypassing that natural development, that crawling pattern. So you want to create a really strong foundation, and that also crosses over to your postural reflexes. So if you don't have that set in place there, then you're actually creating a deficiency in different postural reflexes, and they'll come back and haunt you later on. But also your development of your overall nervous system development can be affected from that too. Or even growing up, if you don't play a lot of sports when you're growing up, running is not a sport so much, but I'm talking about coordination-based sports. Stuff that involves coordination, throwing balls around, getting balls kicked at you, whatever. Fighting martial arts. All those things are kind of build that nervous system development. So looking at someone's nervous system development will tell you how you need to work with them in the gym, for example, and how you need to develop that underlying nervous system and retrain that nervous system before you start giving too much complex movements to them.
Wow. Okay. Awesome. And a great tee up for Matt there as well. That wasn't directly intended from my side, but thanks to Pete for pointing to a solution that's right here. Is Matt Atanasio, and I actually use Matt myself, as people know, and I've noticed, every month now I'm getting a different set of exercises that Matt's giving to me. He's got me on some plan, taking me somewhere, and I've drawn these exercises from an inventory of exercises that are best for my phenotype, epigenetically, with the PH360, which we'll talk a bit more about the genetic stuff a little bit later, Pete. But all right, so there we go. Some hints on what you can start to do to get some low-hanging fruit by just moving, and a lot of it around the mobility and flexibility piece, which is interesting. Of course, if you're not doing anything, then yes, go and walk, for Christ's sake. At least move.
Yeah.
Right. And I guess, Pete, too, what we're finding today too, it's not that 1 hour in the gym or doing your mobility stuff in the morning and then that's it for the rest of the day. Just sit on your butt. I mean, you've got to be doing this progressively through the day. Yeah.
Yeah, you want to be. I mean, if you've got a desk job, I mean, I'm in a very unique situation. So my situation is totally different. I mean, I usually set aside about 3 hours for my training protocol, but
you're on a farm with the animals.
Yeah, looking after the animals. But the thing with people who work in an office all day, for example, is get up and moving every hour or every 45 minutes. You actually get more productive work done if you do that.
Right.
So 55 minutes work, 5 minutes walking around, whatever, take a break. Standing desks can be good, that can be also bad, especially if the people don't have that endurance to be able to stand there for that long. So what I have here, probably not plugged in, but you can see it raising up. I've got a automatic raising and lowering desk, so I can adjust it up and down as I need to. So
is there EMF coming out of that motor, Pete?
Probably, but it's only on for a couple of seconds.
Okay.
So that will actually, moving up and down, maybe do an hour sitting and half an hour standing, build up your tolerance for it. But they kind of, they're saying, the sitting's is the new smoking type of thing. So, sitting with poor posture anyway, and sitting down for too long. I mean, I don't get to sit much during the day, but sitting in the office for 8 hours a day, you can imagine the damage being done to your body doing that.
I mean, I've done enough of that, let alone on aeroplanes.
Yeah.
All right. So we've done a bit of the consumption piece. We've done the move piece now. So let's have a look at the other one, sleep. or recovery, if you're going to put it all
Sleep.
under that umbrella.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So sleep's a biggie with you. Why do you pick sleep as the biggest one for recovery? Assuming you do.
I do. Well, we talked about this before. We did a
Yeah.
video on it too, didn't we?
That's all right. Okay. I just want to remind people
Okay. So
and myself. I got a short-term memory.
yeah. Well, that omega-6, omega-3 ratio probably not helping either.
Shit, that's it. That's why, because I am low. Okay, my God, that's why. There it is. Found it.
Well,
Okay.
it wouldn't be exclusively that, but also remember, vegans, not that you're vegan, but people who eat
No.
low meat consumption, often deficient in choline as well.
Shit. Well, and I did remember for 2 years, Pete. It was plants only.
Yeah. So you're probably
only
hiding.
this quarter.
Yeah.
Go
So we actually should look at getting you. We'll talk about this later on, but we should look at getting you onto a protocol which will probably boost those levels back up to more of a normal level, maybe. And
Right.
But the organic
acid
acid test will give you a bit of a good feedback on that anyway as well. So
yeah.
coming back to that, sleep is the biggest factor. One, it's going to have huge impact on overall life quality of life. I mean, you know, you had a bad night's sleep and how you feel the next day, and your quality of work and everything is going to be down, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Then your mental aspect, your mental cognitive deterioration over 3 days. You get no sleep for 3 days. You see how you function. You can barely put that round block into the square hole type of function. It's that bad after 3 days. So you really lose your mind after a few days. So sleep is a huge component. Recovery from what you're doing too. I mean, if you're exercising, you need that recovery factor. Also, remember, you're detoxifying your body when you at night time. Your body's going through a whole different chemical process at night time when you're sleeping. Well, if you sleep in the night, hopefully you do. Some people are stuck on shift work, but sleeping in the night will actually have a huge detoxification process on the body, aid with cellular sensitivity and everything else. So your body's ability to clean itself out occurs a lot at night time rather than during the day when it has other functions to do.
Right. Yeah, and there's certain hormones that are sort of cranking up at night too, aren't there? I mean, REM sleep and deep sleep seems to do the recovery work and the sort of the cleanup, and certain hormones being released from what I understand. And then you've got the REM sleep, which is when all the connections, the building, that sort of seems to happen after the deep sleep. I notice generally each night. Having one of these Aura rings, which are fantastic. I'm not going to give a finger, but this piece of technology is breaking down REM, deep sleep, HRV, the other one, heart rate variability as well, sympathetic versus parasympathetic mode.
Yeah. Just even taking your blood pressure and or your pulse rate first thing in the morning before you get out of bed can be a good kind of indicator of what's going on. Without using, I mean, once you get into the higher tech stuff, then you can get more feedback. But for people who don't have that yet, just looking at your pulse rate in the morning, especially if you feel like there's issues with your sleep pattern, maybe that's something you want to look at, is monitoring your blood pressure and if you can, and pulse rate you can take, just using data to take the pulse rate, very easy. So doing that is one way people can look at how they're recovering and how their quality of sleep is affecting them. The sleep, you're talking about hormones, so hormones go through a whole different cycle throughout the day. We look at cortisol, for example. Cortisol is what wakes you up in the morning. So towards the morning there, cortisol goes up high, and then you find it slowly kind of goes down during the day until you go to the sleep cycle at night time, where it's its lowest point before bed, hopefully, if you have a normal cycle. We've tested people when it's been in reverse and everything, so that's something that people may want to look at too. Another factor that goes hand in hand with cortisol is insulin. You've got to be careful about insulin. If you get an insulin spike during the night, that can wake you up as well. So people who are waking up during the night, it could be the fact that they've had something that caused the insulin spike or glycemic load throughout the night, and you wake up because of that.
Right.
Yeah, so
wow. And so, go on.
No, you go.
Yeah, so like eating late at night, I mean, 2 or 3 hours before you go to sleep, you should have stopped consuming calories, yeah?
Well, it's not so much calories or that, but more anything that will cause you to have a big dip in your glycemic, in your blood sugar levels.
Like, for example?
eating a couple of handfuls of dates before you go to bed.
So sugary type
Yeah,
sweet
so
stuff.
that's going to push you up high, but it's also going to cause a big crash. I mean, that's an extreme
Right.
example.
Okay.
But dates
Booze?
are booze, yeah. Well, booze kind of affects you on different levels. It has an enzymatic effect, but also, disrupt brain chemistry and everything else. So booze is terrible for sleep. As you know, I
Well,
don't
yeah.
drink, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And I do a bit. I mean, you listen to people like Greenfield who use a broad brush approach, and he has 2 glasses of wine or whatever alcohol a day. I've done my DNA fit test, and it says someone like me, alcohol's actually good in the right amount, in fact, from a cardiovascular point of view. Interestingly.
Well, they're basing that on faulty studies. So the study is looking at resveratrol and other components found in wine,
Right.
okay, for example.
Right. Right.
But when they test those isolates, they actually isolate those components and then test them. And then they say, oh, because it's in wine, it's better for you. But then the line neglects the wine, the alcohol in the wine, neglects any of the positive effect of those compounds.
Right, because of the net effect that it's causing damage somewhere else, or that it's neutralizing the actual positive effect?
Both. It can neutralize the positive effect to a degree and also cause other damages, and also stress on the liver, of course. It's a liver component as well.
Wow, right. Okay. All right. So while you're saving one thing, you could be destroying another, but they're looking at a very isolated, focused one area, not the collateral damage.
Yeah, they isolate the component, like the resveratrol, for example, and they study that at very high dosage too. The amount of dosage that you require would be probably about
liters and liters and liters of booze.
even more than what you're drinking here.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Thanks. Yeah. So, and look, I did learn that as well. If I look at, wow, there's a wind that's picked up here, so let me know if it gets noisy. But wine, a glass of wine, and the resveratrol versus even an Isogenics, they've got resveratrol in one of their supplements, and they have on there how many glasses of wine you would have to drink to get the same amount. So we've got to be careful there with what the wine industry does. What's even some DNA analysis companies do, promoting drink a certain amount of wine a day.
Yeah, that's because they're kind of taking some of the data from the research and not really digging deep into that research and how these studies perform and what they do. And you have a look at the dosage requirement, even a lot of the supplements on the market are underdosed. You'd have to take like 4 or 5 times the serving size to really match what was used in the study. And for a product like resveratrol, again, absorption rate and assimilation is not that great. So resveratrol in a capsule form is not as good. You can actually get resveratrol in liposomal form, so that might be a better way to go if you want maximum absorption as well. But there are other ingredients you can add in there to help with assimilation. And then often they kind of do combine like resveratrol with a whole series of other nutrients, but you may want to for individuals who want to kind of isolate the resveratrol and bump it up, you want to take it by itself.
Right. Okay. All right. Cool. So look, we've done the consumption, the moving, the recovery. You've said sleep in that area, in the moving. It's the mobility and flexibility. And just to reiterate on the food side, basically going organic. Be careful of organic in different country definition, because there could still be organic insecticides.
Yeah.
So make sure you wash your veggies all the time. And the veggies that don't look so sexy in the organic aisle versus the very pretty ones in the GMO aisle. The ones that are not so sexy are the ones to probably go for. And water. You go distilled or reverse osmosis type water. Although a little inefficient, close to each other, they're pretty good. And so that's a quick summary. If I missed anything there, Pete, before we move to the next phase?
No, I think we've got the baseline there.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah, I actually got a question here from Matt about resveratrol good enough of a trade-off when consumed with alcohol. No, basically no, because you've got to look at the dose. It's all in the dosaging. You aren't going to get enough dosaging combined with alcohol consumption, so it's way too high.
Right, right. There we go. And just for your information,
what
Pete,
about
I'm actually drinking.
I'm actually.
Yeah. Go answer the question. Yeah.
Okay. So what about cardiovascular supplements? I'm not sure which ones you want to talk about specifically, Joel, but let's say we actually discussed something we discussed last week. Let's talk about that. Is niacin.
Yep.
Niacin.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So look at niacin. It's actually got quite a bit of research behind it. Very effective. People misuse it or use the wrong kind of niacin or nicotinic acid. So that's a very useful component for some cardiovascular condition. Research also points into supplementing that combined with chromium, though. So, and I think I sent you one of the papers on that with chromium combined with the with niacin actually is a little bit more effective. So, that's a factor. But if you want to put up there, Joel, what you're talking about specifically, what kind of cardiovascular condition or which supplement you might be referring to.
Yeah, that's a whole different subject. And then you can talk about iodine, and there's a few other things I've learned around those cardiovascular supplements as well. But niacin, B3, dosage per day?
Well, I start people kind of fairly low because you get you get the flush from it. You want fast release, not sustained release, because of the fact that the sustained release can be actually toxic, liver toxic over a period of time, and it doesn't give you the effect you want cardiovascular health-wise. So you want a fast release. So starting off about 50 milligrams, most people can tolerate that. You build up your tolerance. When you build up your tolerance, take it up another 50. I take 500 milligrams a day. So
that's a hell of a flush.
Well, I don't get flush from it, really. I mean, I get a minimal, nothing at all, really, barely. Once you build up to the level, I had a friend in Switzerland, Mark, he was taking, correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, later on, but I think you were taking almost 1,000 milligrams a day, pretty close to it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I've seen some articles say 1,000 to 3,000. I think there was one I pinged your way that I found, like you said, and it's that nicotinic acid, right? Type, the nicotinic acid version.
Yeah, nicotinic acid, or that's the form of niacin. I mean, it's the hexy form that you don't want to use because that's a sustained release.
Right.
Yeah, so there's different forms out there for sustained release. Sometimes they weigh they encapsulate it. But also they're using niacin for detoxification with the infrared sauna as well. So, some people use it for the infrared sauna, taking it prior to the sauna and using it for that purpose.
Right. Okay. And then we've got CoQ10. Matt reckons here as well.
That's not looking at any specific cardiovascular event, but I mean CoQ10, caffeine, all that is a very good baseline for cardiovascular health in general. If you're not looking at the general thing, Joel, I think mentioned vitamin E. Vitamin E, if you can get it in the form from cod liver oil directly. So with cod liver oil, you've got all the natural components coming in with the vitamin E. So that's a good thing. But also make sure you've got your copper coming in with that as well.
Right. Okay. We've got omega-3, which we know, but in the right ratio. Was it 3 to so omega-6 to omega-3 should be anywhere between 3 to 1 to 2 to 1, if I remember. And carnitine, what's carnitine?
Carnitine is another nutrient that people use. It's kind of involved with the energy cycle, and that's where CoQ10 comes into the energy cycle. The whole energy cycle for producing energy for the heart function as well. So that whole component of that cycle, the citric acid cycle, whatever they like to call it these days, that is an important component for energy for the heart. But then we've got to also look at the fact that we looked at some of the ketone bodies and the effect on the heart too. So ketones are actually a very effective energy source for the heart too. So depending on which pathway you're looking at.
Right.
So ketone bodies is something we probably we should get into at some point, but I mean that's a whole thing on that.
Another kettle of fish. Yeah. Okay. All right. We will cover that at some stage because the keto thing is very confusing.
Well, the thing is, you got to remember is the preferred fuel source for the heart is actually ketones.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Ask cardiologists.
So in that case, wow. So ketosis is a better way for your heart.
It's a little bit more complex than that.
Right. Okay. So we're going to discuss that. I think on an episode. I think all on itself because there's a lot of keto stuff going around. I think people need to understand that.
Okay. Sorry. Someone asked about it's Angela.
Angela.
Yep. Yeah. She asked about the cod liver oil. I mean, bringing it up. So try the Metagenics brand if you haven't, because I don't find it an issue. But you can also find, and what can also be, if it's rancid, make sure you buy it from the fridge and take it directly to your fridge at home, so it doesn't get any kind of heat damage caused to it. So looking at that, you can also get it in a capsule form as well, which if you have a problem with the taste and flavour and stuff. But I find the Metagenics one myself is, I mean, I'm pushing Metagenics, I'm not actually associated with them anyway, but I do like the Metagenics one. I actually just ordered some today myself.
Oh, sweet. All right. I'm about to go Metagenics crazy. Now, all right. So let's, because I'm keeping my eye on time here. Let's head to that. So we've gone through the building blocks. Unless there was anything else you wanted to discuss around the non-sexy part of living a longer and healthier life. I mean, there's the woo-woo side of around social connection, family. Even animals help you there. Connecting, contributing to society, feeling you're part of the team, and helping people lead a better life. Spiritualism. And things like that. But is there anything else on the non-sexy side that you wanted to throw in before we go to the sexier side, Pete?
For the non-sexy side, now, I mean, we could go a bit more into the physical aspect, which we covered flexibility, but there's other components we could look at there, maybe if you want to briefly.
Let's do that for some easy implementable things.
Yeah. Okay. So something we talked about flexibility before, and that's a component that people kind of forget about big time. And Matt can probably add on this when he comes on Thursday, but with the strength training, a lot of people rely on too infrequent training. So makes you get in too much volume in one session. So you see people going to the gym, okay, and they do a big volume-based workout, and they may not hit their body part for another week, which is okay. Right. It may be okay when you're 20, but I do find that more high-frequency training is actually more effective, especially as you get older, so you can actually vastly reduce the amount of volume per session, but you maintain the volume per block. So whether the block is a week or a month, per block of training cycle, actually the volume done over that period of time is as high, or could be even higher, when you increase the frequency and you cut back that volume per workout. Another thing I see people make mistake is going to failure. Very rarely do you need to go to training to failure. So when you're training, you don't want to go to a point where you can't move the weight anymore. The strongest guys in the world don't do that. That's not how you get stronger.
Huh? How do you get stronger?
Well, as I say, training that short to failure, training in the right repetition range, depending on what you're looking at, the strength range you're looking at component-wise.
Right.
Joint integrity is a big factor because you only can lift as much as your joint can stabilize. So strength will come, your adaptation to that will occur, because when you go to that last rep, look at the form. You should always look at form failure, or what we call technical failure.
Right.
Okay? So you don't want to go to that technical failure. You want to stop just previous short of that. So you maintain that technique and that proper form of exercise when you're performing.
Right. Okay. And once again, I mean, Matt Atanasio can do this around the planet. I mean, he's done me. I'm here in the Gold Coast. He's in the US. And we did this over FaceTime, where he did all the posture, all the checks for the check-in to say, okay. And he said to you, my whole left side was like just a bit of a mess, and you treated me for that.
And part of that was also to do with that leg rep discrepancy. We found that your right leg was 4 millimeters shorter. I know you like to say your left leg is 4 meters longer, but
it's a male thing.
Chicken before the egg.
Yeah, right.
Or the rooster.
Yeah. Okay, whichever way you're looking at. Perspective.
Yeah, so that leg length had a huge component in that, what we were seeing on that dysfunction on that left side. Plus, there was some other stuff ingrained in there, probably previous injuries as well.
Yes, there was. Maybe some of it was part of my cricketing career, and it's interesting. So hang on. So which one was my longer? My longer leg was the left.
Well, longer, I always refer to the short leg just as a baseline. So when I talk about people's leg length frequency, short leg's your right. So we put the shoe lift, we put a 4 millimeter shoe lift in your right. So with the shoe, actually, that should be something we could discuss right now, because that's a big component. Because the research and my own personal experience has been around about 70% of population as the leg length discrepancy. Now, if you look at the research, the medical research showing has been 1 inch or greater has been considered something you have to address. Okay, so 1 inch has been 25 millimeters. That's quite a large leg length discrepancy before you start adding compensation. What I see is, getting a bit of wind there, by the way. What I see is anything above 2 to 3 millimeters leg length discrepancy, I start to see dysfunction occurring. And I find in almost all my back patients I see, there is a leg length discrepancy as a baseline there as well.
Right. Interesting. Interesting. I mean, I'm wondering too whether playing cricket for like 20 years, and I used to land heavy as a bowler on my right leg, and whether that compressed that side of my body by that 4 mil, I don't know, the wear and tear.
It could be, there's so many factors going on there. Matt was asking about the QL, so the quadratus lumborum, yeah, it was facilitated more one side than the other. We actually saw that with the bend over test as well. We saw the lumbar erector come up, and that was the QL on the same side.
On the left.
Yeah, but we also see the QL adapting to that. Now, the QL can cause a hip shift.
What is a QL?
Quadratus lumborum. It's a muscle deep in the lower back that attaches to the lumbar spine. It's really deep.
Right.
And if you side bend to each side, it's kind of the muscle that kind of do that function as well.
Right, right.
So that muscle can get very short on one side, and it can give perceived leg length discrepancy because it can hike up a hip on one side as well.
Right.
But we had a difference in your tibia length. So we had that lower leg length, the bone length on that was actually different. So we knew it wasn't just the hip.
Oh, it was too.
Hiking. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So it wasn't just hip hiking on you, but we did see hip hiking, but the QL was compensating for that leg length discrepancy.
Right.
Yeah.
There we go. There it is, Matt. So for my next set of exercises, let's accommodate if we can. All right. So, anything else on the physical side, Pete?
Yeah, I think that kind of covers the baseline. I want to kind of just mention a few little things, especially about the leg length thing. People get that tested out. I mean, you've got to find. We actually got that posture video that I'm going to help you edit, and then we can get that up there so people can see what we're doing and maybe help them find a good practitioner that can do a proper assessment on them.
Right, and we're going to have. There's a number of exercises that Pete and I went through when we were in New Zealand. That content is exclusive to those in the Heal.me community. So we'll be loading that up pretty soon. So you can see how Pete, from a practitioner point of view, executes these corrective exercises and the approach that he takes. Having a PhD in physiology, you'd think the guy knows what he's doing. But you'll see that in detail in the Heal.me community here on the Middle-Aged Millennial page. So if you jump on there to apply to join the closed group, we'll open the door and let you in. So Pete, moving on then, let's get into a bit of the sexy stuff. Mm-hmm. We hear about more and more about life extension, apart from it being a reasonably good label on the supplement side, but extending life, and we hear about telomeres. Could you perhaps just give us a quick overview of what the hell a telomere is, why it's important that this telomere needs to be in a certain state, and then where are we today with actually being able to, what is it we can do? Part of it we've already answered, but what is it we can do to actually lengthen that telomere, or fix that telomere thing to help us live a longer life?
Okay, so
and any other sexy things you want to talk about?
Okay, sexy. Well, I mean, we can go.
Let's get too broad.
5 hours. So, so let's kind of keep this really simple for people because it is. I mean, you only need to understand it on this level really to really comprehend what's going on here. But the telomeres are what we refer to as the caps on the end of the chromosome. So when you're looking at the DNA sequence, you have a sequence continues on the end there. That's what they used to refer to as junk DNA because before they understood what was going on there. So that cap on the end there, imagine it like the cap or the end of a shoelace that some people have referred to it. That end cap is basically can be used to repair that DNA sequence when it's replicated. So every time you replicate that DNA sequence, damage can occur. that telomere will shorten every time that occurs, and it borrows or steals some of that sequencing to steal and replace into that DNA sequence. Now, that's to put it real simple, okay? So basically, it's just a repair factor on the end of your DNA sequencing. On the end
From
of
when the cells divide, because cells are
the cell
dividing, and
division,
each time, right, this is happening. Okay.
So you start off with a certain number of telomeres, right? And then when you conceived, okay, so
right,
when you have full conception, as your body's dividing, that cellular division when you're growing in the womb is massive.
right.
So you actually lose half of your telomere length before you're born.
Whoa.
So not much you can do about that part, okay?
Right.
So after that factor is what you're going to look at, is how can we slow or reverse some of this. Now, we look at telomerase, which is the enzyme that increases telomere repair rate. So you actually repair that, and that's one of the factors you can look at is how can we increase telomerase. We've talked about TA65 has been shown to help with that. I mean, the biggest part is take away these things we were talking about earlier, remove all the toxins, remove things that potentially can shorten telomeres first. Because if you're taking things that will increase telomeres, it's kind of, you're wasting your time.
Some of the stuff we were talking about before, the non-sexy stuff.
Yeah, that stuff has to go first because of the fact that those also increase the shortening of the telomere. So let's get that stuff fixed first, and then add in things that may help increase telomere length, as I talked about before, TA65, you talked about nutrients that can do it. There's a lot of stuff that can actually do that. I talked about peptides before, epithalon, thymolin, TRH. That combination is very effective for rebuilding telomere length, but also with immunity, building immune system, suppressing overreaction of inflammation in the body and stuff like that. So inflammation will shorten telomeres. So, I think people don't do enough on removing the factors that cause the shortening of telomeres and try to focus too much on increasing telomere length, which is a component. But it's way out of balance these days.
Okay, so it's like the bucket of water that's got a hole in it. And, sure, we can pour more water in the top, but you can also reduce the size of that hole at the bottom.
Exactly. And the thing I find interesting is I see a lot of people in this field who, especially on the telomere science side or genetic science side, and they're focused solely on that, and they have the blinders on, so focused on that one component, and you look at them, they don't even look like they work out. So, they don't physically look after themselves. Look at the dietary, aspects of their health. All these other components, I mean, if they're so interested in this field, they should be looking at how they can reduce as much as possible the actual rate of shortening, and then address the actual increase in length or increasing the enzyme.
Would you see it as a sequential thing or something you do in parallel?
Both.
Both. So in parallel, so at the same time.
Well, depends on how far gone you are. You might need to do a lot of that unsexy work first before you get to a stage where you want to add in those.
Right, because you could be so far gone, got so much inflammation that there's like a runaway ship that you've got, or locomotive that you've got to turn around, or a ship, let's say. I mean, turning that ship around, if it's chronic, it's going to take a certain amount of time to turn that ship around as well. And unless you get that fixed first, don't worry too much about the sexy stuff.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right, okay, got it. You mentioned like this TA65, I think TAM818 is another one that Bill Andrews is, promoting out there.
That's a nutrient combination, but kind of hard to find the actual label on that one. You may have one there, do you? Right.
Yeah, I did a Google search and I saw it there. Or you go to Bill Andrews and check his site. I think he's promoting it as one of his. I know Isogenics, who everybody knows, and I tend to promote them a bit because I haven't found anything that's so accessible globally, especially for my exec customers, that they can make the first big steps at least towards being healthier than the shit that they're eating when they're on the run. It's one step forward. I was doing their dairy stuff for a while and their powders, and isogenesis is the telomerase thing. I sent you recently a list of, I think, the ingredients. Yeah. So that's the other one. And it's more economically priced.
Yeah.
But of course, I'm keen to actually check out TA65 now, like you've mentioned as well. Other sexy things. I mean, I do a bit in the digital health side, but all the digital health stuff is all about measuring and the telemetry. Of course, you could say digital is also a lot of the content that's digitally available online. What else in the sexy end do you know about that? HRT, I think, is another one.
Okay, so hormone replacement therapy or testosterone replacement
Yeah.
therapy for males. With the hormone replacement therapy, first off, test. Before you go anywhere else, test properly. And make sure
Right.
your endocrinologist or your specialist or even your medical doctor you're seeing knows which tests to perform. There's a whole sequence of tests you want to look at. And they often don't, often they'll run a total testosterone test and that's it.
Right.
So they don't even look at free testosterone and six-hormone binding globulin, which are just basic ones to look at. But you can get more complex depending on the cases you're working with.
Right.
If you're looking at testosterone replacement therapy, I think that's probably, someone should really start looking at that at their 40s, monitoring that and keeping an eye on that and seeing if there's. But before you start doing the testosterone replacement therapy, look at what's causing that suppression. Is it truly just dropping down because you're getting older? Because it does drop down as you get older. Or is it environmental or lifestyle factors that are causing that? Are you going out partying every weekend? If you're going out partying, are you overtraining? You party every night.
Right.
So
used to, years ago.
So those things can cause suppression of the testosterone, particularly free testosterone. We're kind of more important to look at that. So monitoring that is very important, and then correcting that if you can. If you can't, then taking supplemental testosterone, bioidentical, which is pretty much all the testosterone on the market anyway. So looking at testosterone supplementation, don't go for the creams, don't go for the transdermal gels and stuff like that. Go for injectable, suck it up. And don't listen to your doctors, because don't go on something like Sustodon 250, which is a blend of fast-acting and slow-acting testosterone esters. You want to get a basic medium-length ester, like a testosterone enanthate or cypionate, and you want to actually take that more often. Every 2 to 3 days, you want to take a small injection rather than taking one big shot every 2 weeks, which is often some doctors will give you an injection every 2 weeks. You can take a very small dosage every 2 or 3 days, and that will actually be much better.
And how long would you need to take that for? For the rest of your life, or a few months, or what?
Well, I mean, depends on where you are and what's causing this, lowering of the testosterone. If you're older, then take it for the rest of your life. I mean, nothing wrong with that. I have found that used it in cases where you can actually being on it actually does. It's kind of ironic because taking testosterone suppresses your own production, but I've used it to actually kickstart the body.
Yes.
And start someone on that and then actually come off it, and they've actually kept going producing their own testosterone, so it can be used for that too. So Matt's asking about
questions from Matt.
Yep. Looking at T4, T3. So basically looking at the thyroid function. So that's again another really complex protocol to look at, because you've actually got T2, T1 as well. That you've got to look at all different hormones there. And testing of that is very underrated too. They're basically looking at T4 primarily only.
And NOx he's got there as well.
NOx dioxide, which is I mean, NOx dioxide is very important when we're talking about cardiovascular health before as well.
Yes.
Factor involved with that too. There's a lot of supplements promoting that, but most of them are a bit fictional.
Right. So I mean, like for example, isogenics, I regularly take their what they call NOx, nitrous oxide, and it's more it's a natural version of it, whatever that means.
What's the primarily what's the ingredients in it?
Oh, I'd have to grab it out of the fridge.
Arginine or something?
Well, I don't know, but I mean, take arginine as well. I think that's pretty good for male health.
Just make sure your ratio of arginine and lysine is in balance, because arginine.
What does that need to be?
Well, we'll see when we get your amino acid profile.
Yeah, on the organic acid test. Okay,
well, we're doing a separate one for that later.
Oh, cool. Okay. Now, damn it, there was something that popped into mind there as well. So, okay, HRT, peptides. What's to do with peptides? That's injectable as well, best form?
Yeah, okay. So depending on which country, whether they're legal or the experimental or whatever. So, you've got to look up what's available in your country where you are. So peptides are very, very helpful. Now, people kind of used to look at, human growth hormone used to be the anti-aging hormone that people used to take, right? Peptide people used to take
Right.
for that. But really, the big one behind growth hormone is actually IGF-1. So IGF-1 is produced in the liver from your growth hormone. So it's broken down and reconstituted into IGF-1. So your IGF-1 has a lot of the properties that people were looking at, beneficial properties from growth hormone. And actually, in a lot of tests they do, lab tests they do, they run the IGF levels to look at your growth hormone levels. They don't test growth hormone because it's very hard to test growth hormone directly like that. And it doesn't actually give you a feedback of your growth hormone levels anyway. But IGF-1 is very, very good. But then people have a kind of a negative against it because of the fact that the cancer link there. But there is no cancer link. It does accelerate growth of cancer if you already have cancer. So if you've been diagnosed with cancer, don't take it. And if you are using it for some purpose, make sure you know what you're doing and why you're doing it, and use it for short periods of time. But that's not the big one. The big one, as I talked before, was epithalon is one of those. Growth hormone releasing peptides are also another one. There's a whole series of those, depending on how you want to mix them up. They can actually stimulate your own body's production of growth hormone, so you don't actually have to take additional growth hormone. It just increases your body's own production. And actually, some of them really help with sleep too. So coming back to sleep, some of them really help with sleep. Epithalon is fantastic for sleep as well. You sleep like a baby when you start that stuff.
What's it called?
Epithalon. You know the epithalon that I was talking about before.
Epithalon.
Yeah.
Yep.
That stuff. If you take that, you take it before bed, you'll sleep like a baby.
Awesome. So we get some good deep sleep and REM sleep, or just sleep in general?
Baby sleep.
Baby sleep. Yeah. Okay. Well, if it's baby sleep, it's got to be good.
Deep sleep. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Sweet.
Your cycle, you go through that cycle every 90 minutes or so, whatever's in the cycle. You'll find the rhythm is just on rhythm too, because it looks at how balanced that rhythm is. You'll find the whole balance of the rhythm is more stable as well.
Wow. Okay. Awesome. So then summing this up from a protocol point of view, we're looking at, the telomerase aspect around your telomeres. And apart from the non-sexy stuff you should be doing first, some of the sexy stuff there is, there's some of these supplements like TA65, which, you reckon's pretty cool. There's a new one from Bill Andrews as well. And he was involved with TA65 in some shape or form, but TAM 818 is his latest one. Then there's Isogenics with their Isogenesis, which is probably a cheaper way to get some of this good stuff. Go on.
Some of those supplements, you've got to look at the dosage in too, because they produce ones that, after you find them a combination, the dosage doesn't match, and it does across the board. It's just not, one brand over another. The dosage is not usually high enough. So I do, if I'm looking at specific protocols, I do like to get isolated nutrients that I'm working on. So, for example, we were talking about reverse salt before. I'll take that and take a very high dosage, compare it to, looking at the research. But you can't necessarily do that if you've got one that's got a whole lot of different ingredients in it, because you may be taking too much of another one. So that's why I like to go isolated sometimes and get that higher dosage in on some of those. Or you can actually take that as a baseline and then bump in on top of that some of the other nutrients that you want to increase the dosage of specifically.
Right. Okay. Awesome. So if you're looking to take on these protocols, go on.
Joel was asking about his sleep cycles off. And we talked about this way, and something you look up is, we were talking about before with the testing of the neurotransmitters.
Yes. So that test that we did around
the Braverman test.
Yeah.
So that's developed by Eric Braverman. That's a good baseline. It's actually just a written type testing thing. It's actually surprisingly quite effective. You can do lab work, of course, to back that up. But for general public, I found that quite effective. So, Joel, if you look at the Braverman test, it's available online for free anyway. And I believe you're going to be, Tommy, you're going to be doing some more work on that as far as providing protocols once people have gone through that and looking at addressing those neurotransmitter imbalances that may be occurring.
Exactly. At the moment, I've got the exec program running. Where we're pilot testing out the executive program, where things like Braverman test Dr. Kelly test being a part of that as well. And there's one that you're actually putting together yourself, Pete, around functional medicine and so on as well, which is pretty cool. So we're sort of combining these things into the program, and also probably a more of a cookie cutter approach for those that are looking to take it's more of a baseline approach to test things out over a shorter period, because the executive level one is about 3 months worth, but there's a month one that we're doing to bring people in to just introduce them to some of these protocols as well, and then see where we could possibly go from there. So yeah, absolutely, Pete. Now, all right, so let's have a look at this. So we're looking at some of the things like telomeres. We're looking at peptides. We're looking at HRT. And how IGF, or insulin growth factor, plays a part in that as well. But once again, you've got to sort of know what you're doing with some of these things, the dosage and how often and how long for. And that's where we want to make sure that you're getting the right advice on that, and your doctor obviously playing a part in that as the accredited official person at the end of the day. But these are just some ideas and protocols that we are taking and we are sort of using on ourselves as guinea pigs, and from some of the research, a lot of which Pete here is very experienced in. And then did I miss anything around the sexy stuff, Pete?
No, there's so much.
Basically, there's so much more. That's probably enough for now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, some of the biggies there. It's big, It is big, and if anybody knows it's big, it's you, because you've been doing this stuff for a while, and hence it's cellular age of 26. We can get at the stem cells and stuff like that, but we'll do that in a subsequent program. I think the idea here was to introduce people, and even in introducing, we've been doing this for an hour and a half now, so we're probably going to land this. But
maybe one of the longest one you've done, huh?
I think so, and geez, we could go on for just hours, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's overwhelming enough as it is, I think, and the low-hanging fruit, that's why I wanted to reiterate again, just some of those basic steps that can really give some big wins on eating and moving and sleeping, like we said at the beginning of this FB Live. And then there's some sexy stuff that we can get into after that to really start to crank it up from going from good to great in longevity. And I guess a final question I've got, Pete, and I'm open to you making some final comments as well, of course. But we are now, are we not, at that age, or, Bill Andrews claims, we're the man that wants to solve aging, we're 1 to 3 years away, and you've done a fair bit of your own work around solving aging, but are we at a stage today where people can actually reverse their age? I mean, shit, you're saying you're a cellular age of 26. Is it possible today?
Well, talking about cellular aging, I mean, we're talking about telomere length was one component of that, so that's only measuring one component. So, I would dare yes. Is it financially feasible for the majority of people? No. We're talking a lot of money. A huge amount of money. I mean, if you've got to spare $50,000 a month plus, then maybe you're in that category.
Right, there it is.
So getting that cost down is a big factor. But there's so much you can do that costs you nothing. How much does it cost you to have a good sleep?
There we go.
Yeah.
Right. Have a good sleep.
Eat properly.
Go do some exercise.
Yeah. I mean,
move properly.
That the sleep part, people are talking here saying their sleep is off. So I think that's number one. People think people should fix first, to get their sleep cycle fixed first, and then start moving into getting better exercise. That way they can recover from the exercise. So do the Braveman test. Look it up online. It's all online.
Number one, sleep. Yeah. So let's do the top three then here, Pete. So number one, you're saying is sleep. What's next? Okay,
sleep. And I'm thinking about your people who are watching on here who are already probably exercising already. So let's say they are already exercising. Get the exercise cleaned up. Do the right thing. Talk to Matt. Get the right kind of exercise program that you should be on, not taken out of the magazine or something. Okay, so cleaning the exercise program up so you're not doing more harm than good.
Yep.
And then the diet part. Clean up your diet as much as you can. The water has been a part of that diet, of course.
Right. Okay. And let's get off
grains out. Number one, just cut grains out and see how you feel.
Cut grains out. White carbs and grains.
Mm-hmm.
Cut them out. That's a biggie. And water is your other big one, I think.
Yeah, water's part of that.
Right.
Yeah, essential.
Clean water, distilled or reverse osmosis, filtered, next best thing.
of water. So, I mean, there's some basic steps that cost nothing. They're just actually choices that you make. And it's funny how you can just get huge return out of learning some new habits. So it was sleep, what you're sleeping, moving, eating clean, and we'll include in that clean water, about 2 litres a day. Those things make an epic difference just to start off with, and they'll cost you nowhere near $50,000 a month.
No.
We got into some of the sexy stuff, right? Just to give you an intro, that it is possible today to reverse age. It's happening today. It's going to get more economic. Get that baseline unsexy stuff in place first. The other stuff is going to come down over the next few years and be generally available more and more so. And one diet does not fit all. One exercise does not fit all. And this is where, and I think, Pete, if you're up for it, and genetics is a big part of your educational background as well, if we went into some genetic stuff and getting people to understand, there's so much confusion around genomes and phenotypes and genotypes and the CGAT, whatever bloody thing it is, that's the 4 things in a gene, or right. All these things are confusing people.
Well,
and epigenetics, the big one.
The expression. People look at their DNA.
Expression.
It's all about expression.
Right.
So just because you have a particular gene marker doesn't mean that gene's been expressed. So that's something people need to take into consideration when they're looking at your genetic profile. If they've done a 23andMe or one of these other ones,
right.
Take into consideration, just because you have a specific gene marker doesn't mean that gene has been expressed. And even if it has been expressed, the rate of expression of that gene could vary as well.
Right. Okay, so look, I reckon that's an exciting topic. It is topical right now. There's a lot of those cheap gene recreational tests that are out there. So if you're up for it, talking about the expression or epigenetics would be awesome for our next session on Tune Up Tuesday next week. What do you reckon, mate?
I think we could,
sounds good.
Depends how deep you want to go.
Oh, well, we got an hour and a half. We could be, right? I mean, there's big subjects, and I want to help clear it up for people, as you do, So, awesome, mate. This has been epic. I mean, some people have come on live, which is great. I'm hoping we'll get a stack of views out of this. I'd like to actually boost this one up because I think there's information in here that's coming from a very credible source in Peter Rouse, who has, a PhD and a lot of other qualifications around sort of longevity. That'd be great to get out there. And we've got some programs we've put together, a lot of it actually influenced by, the source. A lot of it from Peter. We've got other partners on here like Matt Andanasio helping around putting some of the exercises in place that are specific to individuals. And tomorrow we have Anne Westrom Murphy joining, our resident foodie, about nutrition.
So she can clear up a lot of that stuff too. She can clear up a lot of that stuff. Yeah.
So I reckon we'll tape it and we'll go off from where Pete's left off here with regards to the nutrition piece and food, go a little deeper and in line with that to take it to the next step. So make sure you join us tomorrow, similar time, provided I can get my technology working as usual, at around 11 a.m. here in Brisbane.
Around about 11 a.m. Give or take 20 minutes.
That's it. Yeah, I had to run from the beach after my overheating phone. This time, that was the excuse. This time, Greek time. What the heck? I want to leave it a long and healthy life. I don't want to stress on being there by the minute. So, guys, thanks for joining. Pete, once again, Doc Test has just joined. Doc Test, you have got to go and listen to this. This has been an epic session with Peter Rouse being in the house. And remember to enjoy life right here, right now, today. I know Pete is over there in Queenstown. I'm certainly working on it here on the Gold Coast. What are you doing about it? If you want to lead a long and healthy life, start with listening to this hour and a half. And we're going to be going deeper in these different facets with, Peter being generous enough to join us on some of these Tuesdays, and maybe a whole heap of them if we can get him sucked into joining us for the duration. All right, guys, we'll catch you on the next one. Remember, enjoy life right here, right now, today. Bye, guys. Thanks, Pete.
Okay.
Bye.